everyone, Jessie from b.a.r.e Flower Farm. It is September 24th, right after work, and we are getting out to harvest some lilies. But this video is both an update on lilies and also me testing out a potential new sales outlet. So I wanted to bring you along. The two things I want to talk about. So if you haven't been following me, second year flower farmer in Zone 6B in New Jersey, and I've been growing a lot of lilies this year. I've been growing predominantly OT hybrids, which are a cross between an oriental and trumpet. And they are fragrant, they are showy, they are beautiful, but they are fragrant. So it actually reduces the pool of people who want those lilies. And for fall, I decided I wanted to potentially get some lilies in time for Thanksgiving. And I would grow the LA hybrids because they are non-fragrant. They won't compete on the in the Thanksgiving table landscape. So started growing them. They're coming in and they are moving. So wanted to talk a little bit about that. But then for the sales outlet, I am going to be dropping off a bucket, so we'll call it 5 bouquets, off or to a local farm that has a storefront, and it's like a country store. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be testing to see how $20 bouquets sell there. And the reason why I'm doing it now is because, one, I have a lot of lilies coming in. I have 2 successions of 400 each. So with attrition, we'll call it maybe like 325-ish each. So that's that's 650 lilies, which is quite a bit. And then the second reason is because I did an interview last week with Melinda of Springdale Flower Farm. Highly recommend watching that video if you haven't yet. But Melinda talked about finding a very profitable sales outlet in her first year of flower farming. And she found a local farm, kind of like the one that I'm going to, I think. But anyway, they have a really great clientele. They've been pushing her jars, her mason jar arrangements. And as a result, she's been able to sell 35-ish, sometimes above that per week. So she talked about giving herself a pep talk, talked about talking to the manager to do this. And I was like, I should do that too. I have 2 right next to me. What is stopping me? So I had to give myself a pep talk too. I always joke that, none of us come out of the womb wanting to sell and feeling comfortable with all that stuff. So we all need to give ourselves a little bit of pep talk. I did it, and the person who runs that store was like, yes, I would definitely be interested. In fact, I'm a former florist. I used to try to do flower arrangements at the farm stand and the country shop, and they sold really well. I just didn't have time to continue doing it. So I think your flowers would sell really well. So I'm gonna take you along that, show you how it goes, talk about numbers, which we haven't talked about yet. So hopefully by the end of this video, that will be talked about, and we're gonna bring you through the next few days. So just to give you an idea, all of these look like they are basically ready, or at least 80% of these look like they are ready to be harvested. This one is perfect, but because the nighttime temps are going to the 50s, I'm going to keep this here. I want them slightly opened for the bouquets tomorrow and potentially this weekend. I have more coming in here. I have a few more beyond the weeds in that bed. Some more over here that are clearly not going to be ready this week or even next week, but that will be a future succession. And then if I walk over here, you'll also see some more over here. So I might actually have a 1 to 2 week gap, which is okay. But yeah, a lot of lilies are coming in, as you can see. Before we talk about the new sales outlet, I do have a pretty decent sized lily order going out tonight. So this is exciting because this is the most amount of lilies I've sold in mass at a given time. So there are 5 bunches of 10 of these LA hybrids plus 5 stems of these double, so these are rose lilies, and this is called Amistad. And what's really interesting about Amistad, I've grown these before in the summer, and I would say that they bloom a little bit more white to blush, and with the cool nights, these are blooming more pink. So this one's a little bit more white blush down here, but all the ones that are coming in now are a little bit more pink. So just variation due to the weather. And we see this especially with like flamingo feather celosia, where it gets a lot more pink during the cool cool nighttime temperatures. But this is exciting for me because the guy who is buying this is a pretty well-known designer. His name is TJ McGrath. He is located out in New Jersey, but he does a lot of sustainable floristry design work, and he actually has a workshop coming up next week, and he's sourcing flowers from all over New Jersey through the 2 co-ops and probably more. And so I was super excited on his feed to see that he used lilies, and I was like, I will list as many lily bunches as possible. So I listed 8. He bought 5 of them plus the Amistad, so these are going to go out to him tonight. Good morning. It is the next day around 7:15 a.m. I wanted to harvest yesterday, but the delivery took a little bit longer than expected. So I'm gonna harvest right now. I'm gonna harvest those dahlias. I'm dropping these off in about 5 hours. So I'm gonna let them condition as best as possible. And then I'm also gonna harvest some other filler to make the bouquets. So I'm just gonna get right to it. So I've got the 5 bouquets now ready for drop off at the country store. So it's 4 mixed bouquets, and I am curious to see if straight bunches of lilies will sell. And yeah, I mean, you can see they're loaded with dahlias, with lilies. There's not a lot of filler except for a little bit of this feverfew, which is a second flush. My first flush was infested with thrips. I cut it completely back down, and now they look really good. So let's see how these move. They're gonna be priced at $20. I'm also gonna give the country store a vase of open lilies to just make it look cheery, full, and people can see the lilies that will eventually open up and what they're gonna look like. So here's the vase that I'm going to give them. Lots of color, and let's load up the car and get to the store. Hey everyone, it is now Tuesday the 24th, so about 4 days after the last video and bouquet drop off at the nearby farm, and just want to give you guys an update. So you can see I'm in a raincoat. It's been very gloomy. We're dipping to fall temps. I happened to drop off those bouquets basically right before a tropical depression. So for those of you who don't know what a tropical depression is, that's the stage before we get to a tropical storm, which is then the stage before a hurricane. So needless to say, it basically monsooned the entire weekend. Very, very limited traffic. So not ordinary traffic at the farm. And they sold 1 bouquet out of 5, which in the grand scheme, I'm actually pretty happy. So I told them, hey, the dahlias are going to be, on their last legs. You're only going to get a few days left out of them. So give those bouquets to your employees, and let's try again on Thursday. So on Thursday, they do have a story time for children. So they get a lot of traffic on Thursdays. On Fridays, I think Friday it's going to be rainy again, but then Saturday is supposed to be nice. And they're going to do hay rides. So this time of year gets really busy for the farms around here who focus on corn, hay rides, Halloween festivities. So I'm still holding out that this could be a viable sales outlet for me. But today I wanted to keep you guys updated on the lily progress. So today I will be harvesting for my co-op tomorrow. What's exciting is that I have moved 3 bunches, 10 stems each, of the LA hybrids, and then I moved another 10 stem bunch of a very specific variety of the LA hybrids. It's a very specific color, and I actually don't know if I have 10 stems for it, so we'll figure that out. But I also want to show you what some of these look like as they're opening. They look gorgeous. The colors are like, they're so fall, but they're also so fall in a way that makes you feel like they're like warm and like almost like summery in some ways. So I want to show you that. And then what was really cool was last week you saw me move about 55 stems for a workshop. Well, lo and behold, someone who I follow, who actually happens to be a part of the lily workshop, happened to be at that workshop. So it was really funny because it felt like it was a full circle moment. and she took some photos for me of the lilies there. Here is what they look like open up. I was telling her that I basically haven't even seen some of these open up yet, and so it was really cool to get a photo of them. I love the rich pink. I think this one is called Fangio, I want to say. And then there's also some of the Sweet Zally, and then I don't know what the light orange one is, but they all look beautiful in that workshop. So here are some lilies that I harvested yesterday. I left them in this garage, which stayed a little bit warmer because I didn't want them to open up for the market tomorrow. So I don't know what this one is, but this one is so beautiful. I've got a yellow one with some freckles. This one looks to be, I think it's a double LA hybrid, which is really cool because zero fragrance. I mean, less layers, but really, really cute as a supporting flower in an arrangement. And then obviously these are still yet to open up. So I still have a bunch in the cooler as well as more outside that I need to harvest. So I am going to get harvesting this week. It's actually a combination of lilies and 9-bark that is really moving. So the 9-bark is going to be fun to Tetris in my car. Hey everyone, we are back from the market. Busy market today. At 8 a.m. people started showing up. We had a ton of pre-orders. You can see through this video that I shot on Instagram just how many orders we had this week that were already pre-committed. If you don't follow me on Instagram, here's my handle. I always show just like in the moment stuff on stories. So within an hour, I swear it was just like the market floor got raided. Within another hour, there was still some inventory left over, but not a ton. So it was a really busy market day. A lot of my lilies actually moved. The only bunch that did not move were my orange that didn't open. And I really feel like if they had opened, they would have potentially moved. But let me show you what I came back with. I really just came back with 3 bunches. These red dahlias, the orange lilies that I talked about, and some Lilliput zinnias. I even sold some marigold bunches. They were more petite than this, but they were really good filler, and that's what the person bought them for. This is only 5 stems, so it's kind of crazy how much it bulks stuff up. I came back with some sunflowers that I bought from another grower. There's another grower who might be using them, but if she doesn't, then I'll try to use them in the mixed bouquets that I am about to make for the local farm country store. And that's exactly what I'm going to get to doing right now. I have a bucket filled with hot water. So that's how I'm conditioning my dahlias now, not necessarily putting them in the fridge. I'm gonna harvest them. It's a little bit, I guess, later in the day to be harvesting, but it was really cool this morning. We got a lot of rain, so I feel good about harvesting those dahlias. They're gonna go into the hot water, and then when I get back in a couple of hours, I'll be able to make bouquets. It is time to make some bouquets. I harvested a few more stems. There's some hibiscus mahogany splendor over here. I've got a bunch of stems out in the front. These have not been moving as well at the co-op as I would have expected. So I do have a wedding in mid-October. They're DIY buckets, and I think they would be great for that. So I'm saving them for that occasion. We're gonna use the red dahlias. Haven't heard back on the sunflowers, so we're gonna save them for now. Harvested a few more dahlias, and let's get cranking. And here are the bouquets. The marigold fillers came really in handy. I really like how they bulked everything up. So lots of fall colors over here, with the exception of these 2 bouquets that kind of have a little bit more of a summer splash to them. But I'm going to let them condition a bit more because I actually just cut the mahogany or the hibiscus mahogany splendor, and you can see they're starting to wilt a little bit. So we're gonna let them condition, and then I'm likely gonna drop them off tonight. They do have a walk-in cooler, which is really nice, and that way they can put it on for display tomorrow. And they actually have something called story time, where moms bring kids. I think it's like a small fee of like $6. They get to also meet some of the animals. So I think that will be good for the flowers to be available when that story time happens tomorrow. It's around 6 p.m. right now, and I just dropped off the flowers. I'm actually right in front of daycare picking up the kiddo, but wanted to do a quick update. I walked in and it was crazy. Some of the lilies that I gave them for display were still looking great. I mean, I think they might have like a couple of days left. And then they actually pulled out the dahlias and some of the other stuff and left the lilies, and there were like 3 bouquets left. And the lilies still had life. I mean, they were just opening. So that is pretty cool because I dropped those off 6 days ago. So they said that earlier this week they sold another bouquet. So 2 out of the 5 sold. We talked a little bit or brainstormed about having a different vessel. So far I've been using the Procana buckets, which are those rectangular, sturdy, but tall buckets. So I'm going to bring the round buckets that I think are going to be a little bit shorter, and therefore it makes it easier to see the flowers. And then one other thing I changed was I didn't use the pre-made sleeves. I stapled my own sleeves because I noticed that the blooms were getting a little bit hidden. My sleeves are either too big or too small for these size bouquets, so I decided to just DIY those sleeves. So I'm hoping with those 2 changes, plus the fact that we are not in a tropical depression anymore, will help move those stems. And the owner, who used to be a florist, also is pretty confident that the flowers should do well. So we'll see what happens, and they'll keep me updated via text. So today is Friday. It is raining. It actually rained really heavily this morning. Now it's starting to come down pretty hard. But I went to the country store yesterday, and not good news. Over the course of Thursday, which was a relatively good, decent weather day, none of the 5 bouquets sold. And we do think it is a vessel problem. So the Procana is so high up that it covers a lot of blooms. So you can't really even see the color. And so I'm going to show you a side-by-side of what they look like before and after I brought the circular buckets. So fingers crossed that even despite this weather that's going to continue to tomorrow, which is going to impact the fall festivities, that we still get some traffic. So it is what it is. An update. So it is now Saturday. Yesterday, end of day, I texted with the country store owner. Nothing sold, and it's getting a little bit like a traffic issue because of the weather. And so I said, let's hold off on bringing any more. You know, the dahlias are conditioned to last for, I would say, at least a week. There are a lot of balls in there. The lilies were completely closed when I dropped them off, so I have a lot of faith that they're going to get at least a week's worth of days life. And I said, today's the absolute last day I would sell them. Afterwards, please have your employees take them home. 3 sold this morning. So it goes to tell you that even though the weather wasn't great this morning, there was just inherently more traffic on a Saturday. They actually had to cancel their fall corn maze festivities. So they're gonna open it up tomorrow. So that's why I have more flowers here. We're gonna make some bouquets, and then we're gonna drop them off and see how tomorrow goes. And hopefully I'll be able to cap off this video and then talk about some takeaways and learnings. All right, so I only had enough dahlias and filler to make 3 more bouquets. These are all lilies that were harvested today. I still have some in the fridge. They're a little bit more open. I want the lilies to be more closed just because I feel like they're not turning over as quickly as I would like them. So this one did bloom in the field. It is gorgeous. This is called Royal Sunset. It's like my new favorite. So we're gonna drop these 3 off, and maybe I'll be able to make a few more tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. Cheers. Everyone, it is now Sunday. So yesterday in the late afternoon, so like 5 p.m., right after the store closed, we dropped off 3 more bouquets. At that point, they had just 1 bouquet left. That bouquet was pretty tired looking, so I took that, and the lilies were still usable, so I plucked those out, put them into the cooler. But I made 3 more bouquets because it is absolutely gorgeous outside, if you can just see in the background. So they're doing like some of the fall festivities. I don't think they're doing the maze ride just because it's still a little bit muddy outside, but I would expect there to be quite a bit of traffic today. So given how poor the weather was yesterday and still a decent amount of traffic, hoping that the 6 bouquets sell today. Now, I've been meaning to do a video of just the drop off and how things look. The baby was screaming her head off yesterday, so that couldn't have happened in terms of the video. And then Eric is helping me do the drop off today as he's going to a hardware store. So no video on that, but you guys can get a bit of an idea of just how this country store looks. So maybe in another video, I'll do that. But let me show you what today's bouquets look like. So again, powered by dahlias and lilies. We've got one double lily in here. Here's more lilies with my new favorite royal sunset. And this like one lingering second flush Lysianthus bloom. And then a new LA hybrid opened up, and this one is called Eyeliner, and I am so in love. It literally looks like there's eyeliner on the edge of the petals. So hopefully these move. The marigold filler has been awesome, honestly. I know some people don't like the smell of marigold, but this is very, very light in scent, if any at all. In fact, there's someone who didn't like marigolds and she was like, I don't really smell it. So I'm just super excited that I was able to find a filler that goes well with these fall colors. And yeah, let's see how these move.
Eric just dropped off the 3 remaining bouquets and let me know that the other 3 that I dropped off yesterday are still there. And that's totally fine because it's around noon. The farm opened about 2 hours ago, but people are going there for fall festivities. So if I were buying flowers, I would wait until after all that's done to buy flowers. But anyway, I wanted to wrap up this video because there's so much to talk about just in this like 9-day period alone, and there's going to be subsequent videos on how this does. But I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about considerations, things to remember, and of course the finance piece of it. So let's talk about considerations. The first thing to remember is that we as humans are often impatient and we want things to work right away, but that is not how it goes. So if you've ever done a farmer's market and you're that new vendor there, you'll know that it usually takes time for things to build. And even if you have a successful first season at a farmer's market, your subsequent seasons are probably going to be a lot better because you need people to visit, to know that you have consistent flowers, that they can rely on going to you for consistent flowers. So typically people who do farmers markets for many seasons find that their subsequent seasons are better. And even this year, I get a lot of messages on Instagram asking, hey, where are you? I wanted to buy flowers. And unfortunately, I'm not at the farmers market consistently this year. But the same thing is true for something like a sales outlet at a country store, a farm stand, wherever it is. So in the past 9 days, unless someone follows me on Instagram, they don't know that this place has flowers. So we're talking about below average traffic for the past week, and we're waiting for their normal traffic to come to see that I have flowers so that they can say, oh, when I'm ready to buy flowers, I can go to this place to buy flowers. So it's going to take some time for people to build that awareness that now that place carries flowers. So that's the first piece of it. The second piece that I want to talk about is the finance piece, and we're going to talk first about how I approached this farm stand and just my blueprint for a script. So hopefully this is helpful for you if you're considering approaching a shop owner and you don't know what to say. So I basically messaged this farm on Instagram and I said, hey, I love to talk to you. We exchanged numbers. Always easier to have verbal conversation. And I open it up with, hey, I'm literally about 2 miles away from you. Just for reference for everyone, this farm is so close to me that I often run to it and come back because it's on my 5K route. So I can literally run there. So by car, it's less than 5 minutes. And that's really important to me because I love driving short distances for a sales outlet. So I said to her, I live really, really close by. Would you be interested in carrying locally grown, sustainably grown blooms? And she said, yes. So I said, all right, this is what I would love to do. I love to give you a bucket of mixed bouquets. So we're talking about 5 mixed bouquets. And I told her there's like 2 objectives that I want to achieve with this. One, I want to see if these flowers are going to sell. Both of us had an inkling that they were going to sell because, as I mentioned before, she was a florist. She's done some flower stuff at her shop. They've always sold. She just hasn't had time to do more of it. So she was pretty confident that they would sell. And I have now some people in the local community who typically want flowers every few weeks that I felt I could also push to her farm. So we both felt like that it would be viable. The question is just what quantities would we be moving at a given time? And that's the second objective of giving a bucket, is now we can talk about, or we can observe, how long does it take for us to move 5 bouquets? Does it take a couple of hours? Does it take a few days? And based off of that, now we can adjust how many bouquets I'm gonna bring next. So the reason why this is really, really important is because I like to, believe it or not, operate on a consignment basis. And I put myself in the shoes of a shop owner. I would not want to be stuck with perishable product. So the sweet spot for everyone is to make sure that we come up with an appropriate amount that's going to turn over at a basis that is appropriate. So meaning if I have to drop off 5 today, 5 in 3 days, 5 in another 3 days, then so be it. But maybe it's going to be 10. When I've seen it done well, I've seen basically this concept of what happens with these bouquets that didn't get bought. That is not a consideration at all. So we want to get to a reasonable number where all of us feel comfortable in terms of being confident in those blooms moving. That brings me to the finance portion of all of this. So we, in the first meeting, actually verbally did briefly discuss what that percentage breakout would look like. And she actually only offered 10% for her cut. And since I've done this before on a smaller scale, usually at 20%, I do want to offer her 20%, even though she offered something lower. And the reason is because, again, she is so close to me. If this is a good outlet, I want her to feel like she's also getting something out of it. I want to support another local small business. $2 a bouquet just doesn't feel like it's a lot. $4 feels like it's a lot more reasonable here. And I think that $4, I can still make the economics work. So at the end of the day, there's just more incentive for everyone to move higher volumes if both sides feel like that they're being adequately financially compensated. So again, this is just how I like to do it, how I am comfortable in my second year. Things may evolve in the future, but you can obviously not do on consignment. You can change the percentages, but in case of you are wondering how to approach a new sales outlet, this could be a start for you. So all this to say, there's going to be a lot more that comes. One of the things that I'm trying to figure out is how to optimize my sales outlets. So now that I have more consistent blooms, I feel comfortable going to something like a local grocery store or a farm store because I feel like I can provide consistent blooms. I didn't feel comfortable my first year doing that. So it doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop selling at my other outlets. It just means I'm gonna be a little bit more focused and perhaps dedicate certain parts of the year to certain sales outlets. So a lot more to come on this in the future, but let me know if you have any comments or questions in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.